what's up, people? Okay, let's do this. Set our timer here. Okay, there we go. Timer's set. Okay, first things first, checking our extensions. They're good. Let's make sure we're on the right branch. We are on the new feature branch. Cool. Okay, so let's see where we're picking up. We stopped at line 24 and save logic pi. So let's go over there. Let's open that file up. Split our workspace up into 2 tab groups. Switch back and forth between those using Control 1 and Control 2. Okay, so this is where we stopped. We were making our first pass through visual data save function. And what this is going to handle is making sure that all of the data that's related to visuals gets saved. And I'm thinking here, I know we had this classified into 2 different, basically, types of data. We have static or unchanging data, and then dynamic or constantly changing data. And I wonder, should we have 2 separate functions? Or should we just have the one function with like 2 different, like 2 different args, 2 different sections rather, that would be designated by arg passing. So you would have like a static or dynamic parameter that would just be set to, I guess, you know, we could figure out a way to do that specifically. Should we do that? I don't know. Let me just read for a second. So if current issues, save logic, saves and go through this file, refactor it, step 5, finish visual data save functions, file to handle all visual updates, create a comprehensive list of all visual data points. So we're trying to figure out about enter continue text, about whether or not that was static or dynamic. So let me split oops. Well, why is it doing that? Yeah, there we go. Split this into 2 sections. One handling static and one handling dynamic. Or split into 2 different functions. This would require creation of param and arg passing would be procedurally easier since no arg passing. Honestly, I would probably opt for the two different functions. That just seems easier. That's probably what I would go with. But I don't know. We'll hold off on that because I'm having my brain lock. I don't really know if I need to do that. I don't want to do something that I don't do. Let's take care of this. Let's look at this enter continue text and see, is this static or dynamic? Text, and we're trying to see if it is set once or if it's set many times. Here's enter continue text. Okay, so this is I think always that. Hit enter continue, okay. I just kind of forgot what that was. So I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be static. Yeah. So this is static. We don't that's cool. It's cool. Okay, so we know that it is static. Let's move it. Yeah, I think what we'll do is I think we're gonna do the two functions. That seems to it just makes more sense to do it that way. It just makes more sense. So let's do that. We're gonna actually create these two. But first, let me make sure we have this comprehensive list of all visual data points. I want to make sure that this is a complete list. Now I'm pretty sure it is because we reviewed the game file, and the game file had this data in it. It was the object dictionary. Here we go. So we have these, well, I'll just look at the dictionaries, because I know we have some useful dictionaries here that You know what? I'm an idiot. Let's do equals. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, so it's just these two. It's the... Okay, so it's the object card group dictionary. We don't worry about that. We're worried about the text object dictionary. So let's compare this with object card group. We have deck, discard, P1 hand, P2 hand, deck, discard, P1 hand, P1, P2 pre-sort, P1, P2 play, P1, P2 meld, P1, P2 pre-sort, P1, P2 play, P1, P2 melds, P1, P2 red 3. And then it differs where we have the P1 player name text, P2 player name text, progression text 2 and 3. Yes, alright, enter continue, input text, multiple choice text, and multiple choice text 2. So let's compare that to our list here and make sure, I mean, I'm pretty sure like I copied and pasted this. I just want to make sure we got all these over here. So enter continue text actually went after, well, it's not going to be ordered because static dynamic isn't ordered on the dictionary. So we'll just go from top to bottom. So we have deck, deck text, I don't actually see that. Oh, okay, well, yeah, that is something that needs to be. Well, no, it doesn't need to be saved because it's never all visual data points that need to be saved. Let me just put a note here. Note deck text, deck text, and discard pile text don't need to be saved because they are never changed ever. So we don't need to load it in. We don't need to recover it. Yeah, that should suffice. So let me just verify that. I mean, like I know that's true, but I just, you know, it's always good to verify. And I don't even see deck text. Okay, it's we don't even have it. We just use deck text objects and we render it because it never changes. So there's no reason to have a separate deck text. Okay, cool. So, and then same for discard pile text. Got it. So that assessment is correct. So continuing through that list, the dictionary rather. 7, 6, and 7. So we're there. All right. Let us continue. All right. So deck text, discard pile, P1, P2 hand. Got it. Or no, sorry. There we go. It's there. P1. I don't see the name. Hold up. P1, P2 name text. Is that what it's called? So as I pass through, I'll just put an asterisk next to him. So we did P1, P2 hand. P1, P2 pre-sort. And then let me verify that this is their names. What was the one I was just looking at? Oh yeah, P1 player name text. I don't necessarily know if that's what it's called. Let's see. So we have the object. Okay, so it just goes off of P1 name. So that's all we need is the P1 name. That's the proper name for the data point, because that's what we need. We just need data point name specifically. So we're going to change this to reflect that. So we're going to have P1 and P2 name. So those will be verified. Okay, so P1 hand text label. Let's review that one. I don't know if that's the proper name for it. P1 hand. Oh, I never hit enter, so it's showing the wrong one. All right. Okay, so the P1 hand text also uses P1 name. So that just means we just need to save P1 name, and then it will. Well, we were discussing whether. Well, I don't think we need to specifically assign all that. Like the recs and the objects, I think we can let it be handled through the first draw window main call when we reconnect that. As long as we have the P1 name, that's all that matters. So we don't actually have to save this. Like that's derived from the name. So honestly, all this might be derived from the name. You know what I'm saying? Like now that I'm thinking about this, I'm like, wait a second. This is all gonna be it's gonna be the name plus the suffix, which is hand, pre-sort play cards, whatever. So as you can see, that looks to be the case. So really, all we need is the name. So we can get rid of that one. Play cards. I mean, this is gonna be throughout across the board. I can just tell you. But I'm gonna be diligent and just verify people play cards text. Yep. So that's gone. Melds text. Let's check this one out. Alright, P1 names melds. There we go. All we need is the name. So we get rid of that. And then P1 read through meld text. Same thing. Alright, that's really easy. The enter continue doesn't need to be saved. That's one of those that doesn't, because it never changes. It never changes. So this would be included in that would be included in this list. Deck text, discard pile text, and enter continue text don't need to be saved because they are never changed ever. And then we have okay, so that's it. We went through, well, P1 player name, which goes off the name. And then we have progression text. Okay. And let's just review that. I'm pretty certain about this one. Oh, well, well, I was going to say we could use the internal we need to look up the def progression text, because that one is a property. Yeah, so our getter here would do the with the progression text lock return as. Cool. Yeah, so that's all we would need. So I think that's correct. Now let's go back to, why is it showing? Looked at progression, and progression 2 and 3 are derived from progression, so we don't need. Enter continue text is static. Input text is the next one. So let's see, input text is next. Let's look for that one. Input text is going to be a property, right? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, input text is definitely dynamic. And definitely, well, that's the way to refer to it, is that namespace text. Okay. I'm happy with that. Let's see what's next here. Input text and then multiple choice 1 and 2. So that's going to be the last two. That's a restriction. Okay, so multiple choice text 1. I think this is also a property. Correct again. And okay, so return self underscore. And this does, yeah, it does fluctuate. We set it. It varies. It's not always yes or no and stuff. So that one is dynamic. So that one would need to be saved like constantly. Well, it would need to be saved every time it was changed, and not constantly. Okay, so, and then multiple choice text 2, yeah, that's going to be a whole separate one. Yep. Alright, so we're good on these. Now, the X and the Y. I would say, yeah, of course that needs to be saved. Yes. Display layer, yes. Play score, because that is going to be persistently displayed. I'm going to make sure that is the correct namespace. Alright, that is it. Okay, cool. Now ground score, that one also is going to be persistently displayed, and I just want to make sure namespace. Yes, it is. Cool. player's hand, which we would call this wait, is this called P1 dot name or yeah, no, it's supposed to be P1 dot name. P1 dot name and then state there. Alright, so player's hand. So this would be P1 dot and then P2 dot. Then P1 and P2 resort play cards. Called red, green, yellow. P1 dot red 3. Okay. There we go. Yeah, and we're gonna need a way. We're gonna have to access the. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna need to, like, we're gonna want to represent these by the hand. Anything that contains cards, we're gonna want we basically just save the list of cards, because it's a list, as a list of the cards associated card group ID. So we would just be saving like P1 hand equals a list, and it's just going to be basically a list of integers, and those integers are going to correlate to the card group dict ID integers, which are the keys in the card group dict that refer to the values in the card group dict, which are the actual sprites, the card sprite objects associated with each ID. Yeah, I think that is all we would need, and that's very easy. That's such a small data set, super easy to save. again, I don't think we would need to say like anything else, like, you know, the rank and the suit. Like, we don't need to save that for each card or whatever. That's statically assigned every time the game is going to be run. So like basically setup is going to have to be rerun again whenever they reconnect, which I think is already the case. I think we already do that. So yeah. Well, if we go look at setup real quick, I would think that we would need to run this even in the case of a reconnect, or rather should we and would we? I think we probably would. Yeah, I mean, I think we would have to. Yeah, this would have to be run because all this stuff has to be assigned. And since it was lost, it would either need to be restored through the save system, or, you know, since it's not data that ever changes, we could just restore it from the setup file through the setup. So that seems logical to me. Yeah, so if the card ID is only used here, why don't we just assign the card ID here? Well, because we're incrementing it inside of it, because then we would reset it to 1 inside of the function every time we call that. Yeah, so we recreate the deck. So we would just recreate all the cards and then like set them to their proper XY coordinates. So that means we actually don't even need to save the card group dict ID. So, long story short, we're down to only 2 static, and they're not completely static. They are changed ones. So we don't even really need to distinguish between these. This is our comprehensive list. I think that's pretty much it. Let's see here. I'll put this here. Put no deck tags. Zero context energy decks don't need to be saved because they're never changed ever. Saved. Let's just put let's change this to be a new task. We'll call this implement code to save each data point. Right, so we're going to start at the top and we'll just work our way through this. Okay, yeah, so this would be done through setters. that's where we're going to add this code. Implement code, save each data point through setters, etc. Whatever the best method. Most of them are going to be setters. So that whenever we set the name, the setter is going to, if it does have a setter. If it doesn't have a setter, we'll do it a different way. But most of it's going to be done through the setter. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and do that. I think we're good. So yeah, we don't need to split this into 2 sections. I'm trying to keep my notes really clean. I kind of get in this habit of letting my notes get like out of whack and then tidying up the actual code, or like having notes mixed into the code. And I want to get better about being more organized with that, to where like I basically always keep my notes in my things to do text files. I don't keep like notes in the actual game file, and also that whenever I change an idea in my mind or make a decision in the code, that I immediately go and reflect that change in the notes, so that the notes are representative of what's actually going on in the project, and not just like this mess of like brainstorm, just gobbledygook shit. It does make a big difference. It helps. It just helps. So we split this into 2 sections. We're not going to do that because I'm glad I didn't go down that road. You can see why. You do the simple stuff first, and 1 foot in front of the other. Get ahead of yourself. So you might be working on something. Okay, so let's do this. Implement code to save each data point through the setters. About 30 more minutes. I think we'll be able to do most of this. So let us search for .name. And I don't think name is yeah, it's not. Okay. We're going to have to search for .name equals. This is a player attribute, and it is not a property. That means we're going to have to specifically address each instance. And this means we're going to have to save this from progression. Like right here, we set the name of the player, so we're gonna want to add in code which saves player .name. Alright, so let's do that. So we're going to put 1925, add code save player. So we're going to need to import. So we're going to say implies import of, what's it called? The visual data save function. Is that what it's called? Visual data save function. Yes. So import a visual data save from save logic. So let's do that. Let's add that import up there. So I'm just gonna copy this line. We're gonna go to this. I'm gonna add a bookmark here so I can go right back to that spot. And this is gonna be this is called project modules, and this one's gonna be Python. Save logic. Import visual data save function. Alright. There we go. And now we can go back to that using our bookmark control N. Get rid of that bookmark control. And now we can do visual data save function. Well, wait a second, hold up. Okay, so I'm trying to think how exactly is this going to be done. Okay, so we call this function visual data save function. This is going to save the new name object. Okay, so that means we're going to have to pass in the object, right? I think that makes sense. So that means that this function is going to have a parameter, which is the we could call it the object. We could just call it like the actual object. How does it get saved again? So, well, we save it under a namespace, and then we save the actual object. So we would pass the object to the function. So yeah, we have to pass the object to the function. So we're going to say player object dot name. There we go. And then yeah, we're going to take in an argument called the object. We just say object. And we're going to say params. And the first one is going to be object, probably the only one. And that's going to be equal to type would be the object to be saved, i.e. string, integer, etc. And then purpose is going to be object must be passed from location, which calls function, which calls this function. So but doesn't that mean we would also need to pass the name along with it? Because, like we said, there's no way to actually convert the name into a string. So we'll do it like that. We'll have the object, and then we're going to have the object name. And so there's going to be two parameters here. We're going to have object name. Purpose is going to be the string name associated with each object for database saving and retrieval reference, i.e. P1 name object would have the object name of, you could say like P1. Well, we could literally just give it the name P1 dot straight up. We could just say P1 dot. That makes sense, right? Just one-to-one ratio as far as like what it actually, the code actually is, versus the namespace that references the data is equal to the actual object name parameter, which is what it's stored, the key basically associated with each actual object value. So then that means now we have to pass that parameter to the function. Okay, so this is going to have to determine whether or not we're dealing with player 1 or player 2. So should we just how do we determine whether it's player 1 or player 2? Should we have that inside of the function? Well, this is the only place name is changed. But we're going to deal with this same concept whenever we modify like the player's hand. We're probably not going to reference the player in terms of P1. We'll probably reference it in terms of an indirect namespace, you know, like it's arbitrary. It could be 1 or 2. So well, so like whenever we modify, most of it's going to be done through setters, or well, custom append list would handle the card groups. That's really what I was thinking about. So the card groups would be handled. We could extract the ID from the name of the card group, which would be within the framework of that custom append list, like append method. Therefore, we would just place that code which references the specific object namespace, like P1 versus P2. That would be executed not inside of the visual data save function. Internally, it would be executed prior, you know, like outside of it. So that was the question of, should we put it inside or outside of the function? And I think to make the process easier, you know, it would be a little cleaner and like less lines if we passed if we passed in like the ID to the function itself. But you know, you're talking about the addition of a couple lines of code. I don't think it's like, I don't really think it's worth it. I don't like parameters. I hate parameters. I hate functions that have a bunch of parameters. It drives me insane. You know, like, we don't need it. You know what I mean? I don't think we need to do that. So we're gonna do it independent of the function. So in this case, we'll just say, like, because even if we do add internal logic to determine which ID it is, like which, if it's 1 or 2, we still don't know. Well, technically we could add, we could make it to where we passed in the ID to the function and the function dynamically created the object name. Like if we passed in the object name as name, but that creates a lot of extra logic. Like, that's extra, you know? It might save a line or two here, but it adds a level of just extra, you know? Let's just keep it simple. So we'll do it outside. We're gonna say if player object dot ID, because the player does have an ID, I'm like 100% certain of that. If player object ID is equal to 1, then we'll just do it like this. We'll say visual data save function, pass in player object name, and then, well, yeah, and we'll say, and then the object name is going to be p1 dot name. That makes sense, right? Cool. Now, player object ID is equal to 2, then we just pass in p2 name. See, so that makes it easier instead of having this like another layer of logic inside of this function, which takes the ID and then, you know, converts the object name from name to the ID p1 name. Uses the ID to create a new string called p1 or p2 name. like because then like I would have to create a dictionary, which it's not that hard, you know. But I think basically the best way to code is think about it, but don't think about it too hard, and then you can always come back and refactor if it really gets ugly and cluttered. Like if I feel like this becomes too much, we can add that logic inside of the function. But if all we're gonna do is this little if, these extra 3 lines, that's nothing to me, you know. That's nothing. It's not really worth, you know. I mean, it could be worth it. We'd say we'd have to have another parameter called ID, and then ID would be set to equal to none by default. If we set it, then we would check in here if ID is not equal to none, then we would have to look up the object name, and that object name would, then we would say we would create a basically say if the ID is equal to 1, then we would make it to where the prefix string would be p1 dot, and then we would have the object name, which in this case would be name, and then we would concatenate that string, and then we would save it. So I don't even think, you know what, we might do that. That might actually be easier. It's because looking at all this list here, this is all in terms of, okay, so see what I was talking about, the dictionary thing, it's not all in terms of player, some of it's in terms of game. So like all this is player, but and then this is gonna be player round score. So we don't actually have to do, we just do player dot. So player round score, player name, player hands, player pre-sort play cards, player play cards, player mouse, and then player red, and then this would be player play score. This would be card, and this is gonna be game progression text, game input text, game multiple choice text, and game. So let's put this in. Okay. So this makes it a little bit a little easier to figure out what type of logic we should use for this. So in this case, so for card, how would we do card? Let's just run through this brainstorm real quick. So for card, the object parameter would be the ID from the card group ID. then the object name would just be the string of that. Well, I'm sorry. The object in the case of card X would actually be the card's X. So if the card's X was like 257, then that would be 257. The object name would be the card's card group ID in the form of a string. And well, we actually we could have the card object names be card object names would be in the form of an integer, and the rest of them would be in the form of strings. So we could say if the object name type is an integer, we know we're dealing with a card. Instead, the other option would be having the object name just be the string of that card group ID integer. So if the integer was 15, we would just have the object name argument passed as the string 15. And whenever when we did that, we wouldn't know that we're dealing with a card unless we first compared that string to a list of strings that contain the strings 1 through 108, which would mean it would be easier, right? It's easier to check the type of an object than it is to check to see if the object is a match in a list of 108 objects. If when we dealt with a card, we had the card's object name be in the type of an integer, we could just easily check if object name type is equal to integer, then we know we're dealing with a card. But do we need to know that? Well, when we retrieve the data, yes. When we retrieve the data, that's when the benefit would happen, because we would just check it. We wouldn't actually have to check it at the time of the save. We would check it at the time of loading. Now, this means we would want the object name to be able to be saved as either an integer or a string. So let me put this, so I think that's a good way to do it. And then the ID thing. Yeah, this is, I'm figuring it out here. So let's put it like this. We'll put card, adders. Then we're gonna put here, game, adders, and then this one is going to be player adders. Right. These will be object name arg for visual data save function would be in format of integer equal to card group data or card group dict card ID. Add code which will check for this upon loading in data. This will allow a simple data type check to determine if we are dealing with a card object. As opposed to comparing a string, since all other entries will be in string format, against a list of 108 strings, i.e. 1, 2, 100. It's just more smarter. So let me add this as a task. We'll say we'll call this load visual data logic whenever creating logic for loading in visual data. Use format of whenever creating logic for loading in visual data. Use format of check data type, check database object name field type to see if int versus string. For if saved to db in form of int means we are dealing with card object data. If saved to db in form of int means we are dealing with player or game object data. Data adder. Or adder data. Yeah, feel. Okay. And then I'll just move this here. See, this is what I was talking about, keeping my notes organized. code should check for this one loading. Alright, I'm going to take a little break. Let me put a little note here, because I did get sidetracked with that. Well, I'll put it right here. For this, we'll say object name provision would be in format of string equal to player/game ID plus object name arg. Well, object name arg would be in format of string equal to namespace of object, i.e. player dot name would be passed in as name. Then ID object arg's ID would be used to concatenate the ID and object name arg to form final object name to be saved. Okay, cool. So we're also going to add this say object ID. It's going to be default to none. Need to add in code which explains object ID arc type purpose. This line. All right, cool. So that's where we stopped. Let's go to devlog. I'm going to do another session, so I'm not going to push the changes right now. I mean, I could make a commit, so, but it doesn't, if I don't push, what's the point of making a commit, because if I lose my local. So I guess it would be wise to push them. now let's do git branch. Make sure we're right branch. We are. Git. Actually, oops, we got. Oh yeah, and we remember we wanted to make it a our title. So we'll call this so I guess technically we would add our title here in the devlog, and it would be like, we would say fleshing out visual data. We don't have to. So we'll say save system visual data save function second pass. So that would be, I don't really like that, but it's okay. I don't like that. I think rather what I would do is leave this like that. Well, actually, no, we would want it to correlate because it does directly, like, it's a one-to-one. The devlog is a reflection of the commit message that expands upon that commit. So, like, we would want to have the title of the commit to be searched for in the devlog as the title in the devlog entry. You know, so the title of the commit message is equivalent to the title in the associated devlog if we wanted to get expanded information on that particular commit, that session. So yeah, we'll say save system visual data save function second pass. That'll be the title, and then we'll indent this, and that will be our final format from now on. So that means I need to update snippet. Let me add list of things to do real quick. Let's say update devlog snippet 395. Change snippet to account for added title for first line to connect title as first line connects git repo commit title to devlog title for expanded reference to session work /notes. That's all. Okay, so now let's copy this, and then we're gonna get rid of this. Git commit -m There we go. So now we have our first line, which says save system, visual data save function, second pass, and then we have our date that we worked on at the time, and then an expanded message, you know, telling us exactly what we did, exactly where we stopped. So now we push, and I mean, I git commit, and we successfully committed that. Then we're going to do git push. We don't have to specify, it's already upstream connected. There we go. So we push to remote. We're not going to do local backup. We'll do that at the end of the session later, because I'm going to do another session. But yeah, so that was it. And yeah, alright, so I'll see you guys in a little bit. We'll take a little break, and then I'll be back.